think that right there is so important for people to realize, because people always say, oh, I don't want to box myself in. And I'm like, you can 100% grow and change your content, but then just don't be obsessed.
You know, all these books that we read they're great and they're awesome, but they're kind of aimed at or written by like the 0.01 percentile, right? It's like written by, you know, whatever, like, I don't know, Eric Ries or Tim Ferriss, or like just these kind of unachievable success. But there's a whole opportunity for this like middle band on just how to be moderately successful. So instead of writing the book, How to Be Moderately Successful, we started a podcast and called it How to Be Moderately Successful. And the whole purpose of it is probably kind of similar to what you're doing, is like, there are very few people that will build multiple $100 million businesses or get to the Olympics or become a professional sportsman. But there's a lot of value that we can add, and I can add, and lots of us can add on how to build a $10 million business, or how to come in the top 10% in races, but not win the races. So that's what we're sort of trying to do with the podcast.
I like it, and thank you so much. I wanted to talk more about that, because you're actually one of the few entrepreneurs that I've spoken with that actually has their own podcast. So that's fairly unique, you know, saying like, oh, you know, you're not taken seriously unless you've got a book. I'm very impressed with the fact that you've got a podcast and that you frequently posting on it. What was that like for you? What was that whole process like for you with starting it? I'm curious.
Yeah. So,
because I know a lot of people would love to start their own podcast as well.
So I think there's multiple sides to it. Like, the first question is like, when you're running a business, time is usually by far your most scarce resource. So you've got to get really good at deciding what you're going to allocate your time to. So the first question is like, why do you want to start a podcast? You've got to have a very specific reason about why you want to do it. And we've got 3 reasons. And the main one is, it is a very good way to get to your target audience in a very high trust, low salesy manner. So I'll just model that for you. Like, we build software, right? As you said, we build software for fintech companies. Now, if I target a fintech founder in Silicon Valley that's just raised $25 million, and I say, hey, this is my software, can I talk to you? They're not going to say yes. Like, they're just not. Like, they aren't going to say, yeah, I've been waiting for you all day to hound me about building my software, you and the 300,000 other people that want to do it. But if you say to them, hey, I've been following your journey, congrats on your Series B raise, I would really love for you to share your insights and your story on our podcast, the chances that they're going to say yes are very high. And then you do the research and you build trust and you build a relationship, and there's no selling. You're just building a relationship. And then business comes as a result of connection and trust and communication. So that was the one reason. The other reason was, we're in the services game, which means by default, people will treat us as a vendor, but we need people to treat us as experts. And the only way that you move from a vendor mindset to an expert mindset is by thought leadership, by writing and speaking. So the second part of the podcast is when I bring people from Nona, my partners, my staff, onto the podcast to deliver a thought leadership episode. Like, the most recent episode is how to assess developer talent. That gives you thought leadership credibility. And the third reason is really not a strategic one, but I just absolutely love it. I just get to speak to the coolest entrepreneurs, like the guy who started EO, the guy who wrote Scaling Up, Fred Chabesta, who's like worth $250 million and started Finder.com. Just really, really cool people. In terms of the actual process, like, if you want to start a podcast, it's easier than you might think. You know, I decided to kind of learn everything myself, like did 100% of everything myself so that I could learn how to do it. And now we're getting to the point where I'm going to start delegating it out to bits of my team and our marketing company. So now that I know how every piece of the whole thing works myself, now I can begin to delegate it out because I actually understand it all. But it's easier than you think. I mean, I'll go into the detail if you want, but it's pretty easy. Just do a tutorial, go to one of the seminars from one of the big platforms like Buzzsprout or Anchor, and you can set it up in a couple of days.
Awesome. I think one of the things I've realized that I really enjoy speaking to you is that you're very honest, you're very transparent. You know, I find what frustrates me the most with, I don't want to say entrepreneurs, just people that I don't tend to get along with are ones who sort of, they gatekeep information. and they don't want to share. And I think people like that are really going to suffer in this sort of new age of marketing we're entering into, which is the curation of it, or filtration of information, because there's so much out there. And I feel like if you can cherry pick the best bits and then teach other people, I think you're in good stride. But yeah, I love that. Thank you.
So thank you, and thanks for the recognition. I think two things. So we've got 5 company values at Nona, and there's 2 that I want to speak to. So number 1 is be generous with your knowledge. And that value has 2 purposes. The first one is internally, like just help people around you, because we hire really smart people, and like just be generous with your knowledge. That's pretty self-explanatory. The second part of that is maybe not so obvious, and that is, I'll give you an example. We recently did, in fact, our most recent podcast is a good example. I got my partner, Dave, and our CTO to basically go through step by step in minute detail exactly what our hiring and vetting process is, right? Now that's IP. That's like valuable trade secret IP type stuff. And I often get asked like, Mike, like, what are you doing? Why are you sharing like exactly how you do stuff on a public forum? And my answer is always the same. It's like, I can tell you exactly how to do what we do, but good luck trying to execute on that. Like that's the hard part. The hard part is execution. Like I can tell you how to build a piece of software. It's the execution that makes the difference. So that's the one point. The other point is we also evolve pretty quickly. So what we're sharing today is going to have evolved and updated in 6 months' time. So by the time someone's trying to copy us, that's cool. Raising the industry as a whole, we would have moved on and evolved. The second part is a second value in our business, which is communicate often and honestly, no matter what. And what we just realized is we've had pretty much every time relationship with a client. It's not because of a difference in the work that was delivered. It's not because of different like client quality or budget. It's always come down to a poor communication set. So we've sort of got this really strong value at Nona where like raise things often, raise things early, speak your mind. Like there's no such thing as like rankings within the business. Like the most junior person is expected to speak their mind to the most senior person because the best idea always wins. So let me be clear, like sometimes it's pretty damn scary. Like when you invite that kind of honesty into your business, you sometimes hear things you don't want to hear, but it always results in better decision making. So thanks for recognizing that, because it's something I really try very hard to be, and vulnerability is what leads to trust. You can't get to trust without vulnerability. So we've got to practice this vulnerability if we want to create trusted relationships.
I actually had one of your employees send me a message. They DM me and they said, oh, you know, I can't remember exactly what they said, but I was like, oh, are you a fan? And she was like, no, it's my boss. And I was like, that's so cool. And I was like, do you have any tips? Like, does he have any secret passions or hobbies? You know, because that's always something which I'm quite interested in as well. And then she was like, no, I just don't know where he finds enough hours in the day. You know, because she was saying like you have the quintessential balance sorted when it comes to work and life.
Yeah, so on that, I don't believe work-life balance exists. I think when the smartphone was invented, that died. I think like there's no such thing as turning off in the age of COVID where we're all working from home. I think that died. What I do believe very strongly in is it's a slight nuance, and it's work-life integration. So what I mean by that is it's 2:30 p.m. here for this call, but just before this call, I did some yoga, I did a meditation, I had a hot bath, and I did some Wim Hof breath work, like in the middle of my day, on a normal day. And I try to integrate this into my day, all day, every day. So I don't really believe in this whole thing of like work your ass off for like, I don't know, whatever, 12 weeks and then take a 2-week holiday. I try to live like more like build in micro holidays into your day every day. So if you can integrate this into your world, it's really important. And especially with work from home, because if you get up early at like 5 a.m., if you're an early riser, it's not uncommon for people to be working till like 1 a.m. if they're not disciplined, you know, at the moment. And I believe you've got to build in time with your kids, time with your partner. If you're into mindfulness or meditation, if you're into sport, if you're into training, like every day, all the time, build this into your daily rhythm rather than like trying to go business, work, relationship. Like they're all one thing these days. So I would say I'm terrible at balance, but I'd say I'm quite good at integration, which is just a nuance, a bit of a cheeky nuance, yeah. In terms of
I
passions,
like that.
yeah, in terms of passions, I think I'm quite obsessive about like habit optimization and behavior change, and I just mountain biking is just my absolute passion. That's just what I love.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my thing. Yeah.
Do they have some good mountain biking sort of passes out there in Adelaide?
They do.
Is it something you did in Cape Town?
Yeah. Cape Town's like one of the best places on the planet, and I miss it dearly and bitterly. The cycling in Cape Town kicks Adelaide's ass, but you know, kind of everything. How about you? Tell me about what are your hobbies? What keeps you sane?
Oh gosh. Honestly, and this is going to sound pretty strange, I just started pole dancing. I think that was like part of a quarter life crisis. I've always enjoyed trying new experiences and challenging myself, playing electric guitar, boxing, rollerblading. So yeah, anything really. I've tried it all, and if I haven't, then I'm going to.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about me. I'm just really open to new experience.
I haven't tried pole dancing. I'm 6'5" and like 105 kilos. I don't know how that would go down.
The infrastructure.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work, but I reckon it would be good for everyone else watching. I don't know how good it would be for me.
I mean, in all fairness, I've seen some of those mountain biking as well. Like I look at that and think, I don't know if that's for me. I used to do dirt biking though, like motorcycle, but I took one hard fall and my mom was just like, no, we're not doing that anymore. So out of respect, I've kind of like pulled back a little bit.
I think like mountain biking is like, it's not really like that in Australia, but in South Africa, it really kind of became the new golf. And I actually had a lot of really amazing business conversations.
Like for business?
Totally. Yeah, totally.
Really?
So, yeah, because it's not all kinds of mountain biking, but if you're sort of racing at a reasonable level and you're doing stage races, it's quite expensive. So you need a little bit of money. More importantly, you need time to train the way you need to train for these events. And then the events themselves are expensive. Now, why I'm saying that is because typically, and not across the board, but typically you're likely to be dealing with like a business owner or a very senior person within a business. So when you're training like that, I just found that there was just a lot of business conversation. And I actually wrote an article on this, but I started saying to people, hey, instead of having a meeting at our office, do you want to go for a ride and just have the meeting on the bike? And people were like, that is such a cool idea, man. Like, let's totally do that. And then chemically, like your endorphins are flying and you're happy and everyone loves everyone and everyone's like, it's just great. So it's like, it's just super. In Australia though, I make the suggestion. They're like, what? No, that'd be ridiculous. Like, not a chance. So not quite the same culture, but pretty fun.
Okay, well, I live in Cape Town now. I know people are open to that. I'm definitely going to get. I don't know if a boxing class has the same sort of feel to it, but you know, maybe I love it. So
yeah, I'm trying to think how boxing would
I'm
go
almost
down.
a little bit upset.
That's.
Yeah. I mean, not sparring one-on-one. I think maybe that might be a bit too much for the first one.
Yeah.
But I'm almost a little bit upset because I challenged myself to learn how to play golf. And it was purely also just to bond with my dad. And I was like, I'm going to learn how to play golf. This sounds great. And I really had a good stab at it. And now to be told that actually, no, golf is out, I'm almost a little bit upset. But it's okay.
I don't know. Look, I don't know if I'd say golf is out, but it was just, you know, this term started to get.
I have many angry people under these comments being like,
Yeah, and it's also like, you know, I took up golf and I stopped very quickly because I'm extremely competitive and impatient. And I was like, I am just never going to be good enough. Like, I'm never going to be good at golf and I'm not prepared to put in the time.
I feel the same. I feel the same with golf. It's like it gives me liberty to swear, which is I think fine, you know, which is interesting. But I also find majority of people just get far too wasted for it, and I'm like, what are we doing? Is this an excuse to like day drink during like work weeks? I don't understand. We need to talk about this.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm a little bit worried for you guys.
And that's also why mountain biking is so great, because like for me, it's just there's so many boxes I can tick. So I ride out of my door and I'm in the trails. I don't listen to music when I'm riding. I listen to like audiobooks or podcasts, so I can like kill two birds with one stone. It's like the one sort of multitasking that I think works, is actually sort of ingesting really good information while you're exercising. It's kind of meditative for me. I'm out in nature, it's beautiful, I'm getting fit, I'm healthy, and it's really good. Like I'm super ADD, as you can probably tell. Like it's really good for me in terms of like like if I don't do it, I
doing loads of things at once that are productive.
Yeah, if I'm not working out and training hard, I'm just not a great person to be around. I just get like I become a dickhead.
Yeah.
I get lethargic. I'm just not great. So like my wife often says like, dude, just go train, please. Please go train. Like, because if I don't, I'm
go for a run.
Yeah. Totally.
Just a quick one with the habit forming ones, because I'm a bit disenchanted with a lot of the books that because I also know we don't have a lot of time left. I know you're really busy. I've been really disenchanted with a lot of the books that I've been told to read as of late, and podcasts. So I'd be really interested to hear some of your recommendations. The one that I really did enjoy was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And I know people lost their minds for that book. I really did not enjoy it. I don't know what your feelings are.
Yeah. So So first I'll make a comment on The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and then I'll ask you a question. So a comment on that is like Mark Manson, my judgment on what he did there was pretty smart, but like I really enjoy Eckhart Tolle's work. I don't know if you've heard of Eckhart Tolle or Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle, yes, I love his stuff.
So I read The Power of Now, and I think I was in like grade 10 or something, and I've just never stopped consuming his stuff. So I just pretty much constantly have his audio stuff going in my car or whatever. I think what Mark Manson did, and this is totally my own opinion, is I think he just took Eckhart Tolle's basic philosophy and turned it into like the modern vernacular. But like, I don't think his work is original at all. I think he's taken stuff that already exists and he's just gone, how do I write this in a way that I can reach the 22-year-old hipster? And he's done a very good job of that. But I get annoyed with people when there's not like original work, even though it's very difficult to come up with original work. So like on the one hand, I'm like, hey, good job, buddy. You've taken something really amazing and put it in the modern vernacular. But I'd rather just
translated it.
Yeah, I'd rather just read Eckhart Tolle, to be honest. I'd rather just, his foundations of what he speaks about is the same thing as Mark Manson. I swear a lot, but I get annoyed at how much swearing there is in that book. It's unnecessary, to be honest. So I think it was fine. Before I give you a list of books or recommendations, that's a massive topic, like recommending books. So give me like a category, or give me like give me a genre or something.
I think, look, you do speak a lot of like your book recommendations on like your articles and on your podcast. So maybe not that, but maybe more ritual based ones, because I know you sound like you're very into like the mindfulness and things that have worked for you, particularly if you're labeled as like ADD, like a lot of entrepreneurs like myself. I think that I'm really interested in.
So firstly,
I'm more the mindfulness ones.
I'm self-labeled as ADD. I've never been diagnosed. I just know I am. I don't need to be diagnosed. But for what it's worth, if there are any listeners like listening to this, just use it. Like, you can use that to your benefit. There's nothing wrong with these things. It's just how you harness them, right? So in terms of like habit behavior, by far, hands down, the best book I've ever read on that is by a guy called James Clear, and it's called Atomic Habits. And it is the best book on behavior change, habit optimization, habit creation. It's kind of, every now and then a book comes along where I read it and I'm like, God, the last 20 books on this subject I didn't need to read. I could have just read this one. And this is probably the best example of that. So he's taken like Charles Duhigg's work and a bunch of other behavioralists, and he's just put it together in like a manual. You read this book, you do what he says, you'll be a better person. It's that direct. And for anyone that wants to read this book, the way I would recommend reading the book is not cover to cover. I'd honestly recommend read a chapter, put the book away, practice that chapter for a month. Read another chapter, put the book away, practice that for a month, and your life will change. And it is so simple and so easy and so not intimidating. That's what's so amazing about it. And when you read his story, like his background, it's pretty damn inspirational. He also has the best newsletter in the world, in my opinion. I don't subscribe to many newsletters. So he basically sends, as he says, it's the highest value per word newsletter in the world. He sends a newsletter every week, and it just is 3 of his own thoughts, 3 of someone else's thoughts, and that's it. And it's just pure gold. I look forward to
Beautiful.
this. I look forward to this every week. So James Clear, Atomic Habits, one of the best books I've ever come across. I've probably read it 6 times, and I've probably gifted it about 20 times. I'll just leave you with that. Don't even bother with anything else on habit optimization. Just get that book.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks. And then I think one last question, because I think that's all we really have time for. What is because I always want to ask people, like, what is that one question that you wish I had asked you? But for me, it's more like my main demographic of people who watch this are small businesses and entrepreneurs who are trying to get started. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to small business owners or people who are entrepreneurs?
Yeah, it's a bit annoying what I'm going to say. I'm sure a lot of people will roll their eyes, but it's a cliche because it's very real. And it's two things. I'm going to cheat. But the first one is just focus. Just make sure that the main thing remains the main thing. So my mentor for years used to just every week, he'd be like, dude, stop fucking about with everything else. Just focus. Just stay doing what you're doing, what you're good at. So focus. The second thing is kind of a play on that, but it's the older I'm getting and the more I'm understanding business and life and performance and all the stuff, it's really not about focusing on the outcomes. It really is about focusing on the process. If you can be disciplined enough to just consistently be focusing on the process, on the habit, on the daily 1% increases, the results follow. They really do follow. And if, the whole thing of like, what could you tell your younger self? If I could have gotten this into my brain when I was 20 years old, I'm not unhappy where I am now in my life, but I just know I would be exponentially further ahead. So it's really that thing. Just keep the main thing, and don't worry too much about the outcome. Worry a lot and focus a lot on the process.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think that's awesome. Good luck with everything in the future. I'm going to obviously be following your podcast, and if there's anything else, I'm going to send you a DM after this as well. But have an awesome day, and thanks everyone for joining. I'm going to save this on as well. So if you guys just joined a little bit late now, thanks to everyone who did join. I won't do any shout outs today, but I'll save this on my Instagram. So if you guys want to come back and watch this, there was a lot of awesome information in here.
Thanks, Stacey, and thanks to all the listeners. You're doing some great work here. Cheers.
Cheers.